Are you wondering how much it costs to actually live here in San Antonio? Well, today I'm going to tell you all about salaries, how much food, transportation, childcare, taxes, and of course, housing costs here in the San Antonio area. So if you want to know how affordable or expensive it is to live here in this area, if you're thinking about relocating here, stay tuned. Living in the San Antonio, Texas area is actually very affordable, much more affordable than many other cities in the US, at about an 8% lower cost of living than the national average, and lower than even other Texas cities. It's about 15% cheaper to live in San Antonio than it is to live in Dallas. Dallas housing costs are about 18% higher. And just up the road in the Austin area, costs of living are about 41% higher than those here in San Antonio. Housing costs in the Austin area are astronomically higher than here. A little more comparable is the Houston area, which is just about 6% higher than here in San Antonio. Some of the things that make Texas more affordable to live than other states is the fact that we don't have a state income tax. So that is a huge windfall. If you're coming from another state where you're used to paying state income tax, you'll be pleasantly surprised to see that we don't have that. However, one of the drawbacks to living in the San Antonio area is the salaries tend to be a little bit lower than the national average. So even though the cost of living here is lower than the national average, salaries are about 10% lower as well. Just want to throw that out there, so I'm making sure to give you all of the information, all the facts. Now, let's get into the cost of food. You probably have noticed inflation, as have I, that the prices of food, the prices of everything have been going up. But the good news is in this area, food prices are about 11% lower than the national average. So I'm gonna go through a few items on the grocery list, and then you can be able to compare what these things cost in your area. These prices are from the local grocery store chain H-E-B. H-E-B is an amazing grocery store, as you will find once you get here. Their motto is actually kind of a play on their name, and it's "Here everything's better," and it's true. H-E-B is phenomenal. It's definitely one of the perks to living in San Antonio, although they've expanded quite a bit in recent years, and so now they're in a lot more areas of Texas as well. There was a time after I graduated college that I lived in the Dallas area, and one of the things that I missed the most was that there was no H-E-B. They weren't yet in that market, and while there was a lot of other choices, grocery store chains to choose from, just none of them compared to the quality and selection that I was used to with H-E-B. So I definitely missed it. Anyway, getting back on track with the cost of the grocery store items, we'll start with bread. A loaf of just plain white bread is $2.18. A gallon of milk is $3.27. That's whole milk. 2% milk is going to be about 50 cents more. A dozen eggs is $2.98, and a bunch of bananas is approximately $1.39. So now you can go to your local grocery store and compare those prices. So one of the things that you might notice when you get here to San Antonio is that there's no bag tax. I know some other states have a tax if you don't bring your reusable bags to the store. We don't have that here. There might be a few individual stores that might charge you if you don't bring your own bag, but that is not the norm. You can bring your own bag, you can use the bags they provide at the store, and usually there is not a charge for it. So the next item we're gonna get into is the price of gasoline. I'm sure you've noticed when you go to the pump that gas prices have been increasing as well, but the good news is here in San Antonio, the prices are below the national average, about 10% lower, in fact. Yesterday, I filled up with regular unleaded, and I paid $2.99 a gallon. And I'm sure there's some stations here and there in different areas that might be a few cents more or less, but I feel like that's a good average number. And then of course the gas stations have, if you get your car washed, then you save 20 cents or what have you. But I would say here in mid-February 2024, the average is about $2.99 a gallon. Another thing to keep in mind when thinking about transportation costs is that here in the San Antonio area, we don't have any toll roads. So you don't have to pay to drive on a certain road to get from here to there. The only toll road that is even close is a bypass road that takes you kind of from the outskirts of Seguin out to the north side of Austin. And that's the only toll road that's even anywhere close. Next, let's talk about utilities. The good news is that once again, San Antonio comes in below the national average and below other areas in Texas. So you can expect to pay for your water, sewer, electric, phone service, internet service, cable, etc., all of those utilities about 14% lower than other Texas cities and about 12% lower than the national average. Now make sure you keep watching to the end because we are going to get into some of the biggest line items in most people's budgets. For most families, it's childcare and housing, and those are coming up, so stay tuned. Now we're going to move on to healthcare. Healthcare is one of the biggest industries here in San Antonio, and we have some great options for healthcare. And the good news is that, like the other categories, the cost of living for healthcare here in the San Antonio area is coming in lower than the national average and lower than most of the other major cities in Texas. It's about 6% lower than most other U.S. cities. One of the upsides of living in the San Antonio area is the wide variety of both indoor and outdoor entertainment and recreation opportunities throughout the area. Everything from games and arcade centers, nightclubs, high-end restaurants, museums, day trips, and amusement parks. The average cost for admission to museums and attractions, day trips, and other sightseeing expenses is on average about $28 per day per person. On the other hand, admission to a movie is about $13, and if you want to catch a game to see the San Antonio Spurs play, tickets start at about $20 per person. Now time to talk about one of the most expensive line items in a budget for a lot of people, which is childcare. The average childcare in the San Antonio area is lower than most other Texas cities and about 10% lower than the national average. Now let's talk about taxes. The sales tax rate here in the San Antonio area is 8.25%. That's the tax that you're going to pay when you go in to buy an item from the store. The rate can vary slightly depending upon whether you're in the city limits of San Antonio or just out in the county or in one of the surrounding suburbs or municipalities, but usually around 8 to 8.25%. One thing I do want to warn you about though is our property taxes. A lot of people are surprised when they see a property tax bill or when they're starting to look at houses, buying a house here, they look at the tax rate and they're quite surprised. But I do want to remind you that we don't have a state income tax here. So if you're coming from a state where you're used to paying that, the fact that our property taxes are higher than what you're used to or higher than a lot of other states still might wind up being a win for you when you take into consideration not having to pay state income tax. On average, property tax rates tend to be a little over 2% of your property value. This can be dependent upon what jurisdictions are able to levy taxes on your property and what exemptions you are eligible for. So obviously, if you're in the city of San Antonio, in the city limits, the property taxes are going to be a little bit higher than they would be if you're just out in the county or in one of the surrounding suburbs, depending also upon what school district you're in. So because we don't have a state income tax here in Texas, our property taxes are the only taxes that fund our schools, and that's why the property taxes can vary depending upon what school district you're in and tend to be a little bit higher than other states that may have other ways to fund their schools. Sometimes folks are a little bit surprised. Last but not least, we're going to get into the cost of housing here in San Antonio. And if you've been paying attention, you will not be surprised to see that once again, San Antonio comes in lower than the national average when it comes to housing. In fact, the median home price is over 20% lower than most other U.S. cities. Median home price is $312,000 here in San Antonio. And if you're looking at renting, that is still affordable as well, with the prices for rent coming in at just over 16% lower than other major U.S. cities. So if you have any questions about the cost of living in San Antonio or any other items that you would like me to look into and compare the cost of, I'd be happy to try to answer those for you. Just feel free to put them in the comments. Otherwise, you might want to check out this video next. I have a lot of great content coming up for future videos in the next few weeks, so I hope that you will subscribe and tune in. And please feel free to reach out. I would love to help you make your move to San Antonio less stressful. Thanks for watching.